I thought this episode was very well done as we really got to see a lot of the Phantom Troop members and how they interact with one another, as well as Nobunaga's powers.
Hunter x Hunter, episode 50, Ally and Sword.
Oh, it's just so good.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review of the awesome and action-packed thriller-minute tale. The tale that just won't let up. It's so good, it's the pedal to the metal. It's Hunter x Hunter 2011. Now, our last episode, of course, saw us with Gon and Killua actually being captured by several of the Phantom Troop members and being taken to, and the episode ended with them being taken to their sort of rundown building, church, whatever, hideout that they're in. And that's how the episode leaves off. So that's right where things pick up over here. And initially, just as I thought, Gon and Killua actually notice Hisoka, and of course he notices them as they walk in. And Hisoka's just like, yeah, play it off like you don't know me, Killua kind of goes and lets it out that he knows somebody there, just by his body gestures and motions and whatnot. And, and they wind up asking him, do you know anybody here, Luckily, Killua and Gon, when they were pulling their arm wrestling stuff a day or two prior, had wound up actually seeing Fei Tan and Shizuki and Shizuku and Franklin, right? Because Shizuku's the one that got beat, by Gon arm wrestling. And it's kind of funny because they're like, yeah, you got beat the other day. And she's like, no, I don't. and they're like, it's useless. Once she forgets something, she'll never remember it again. They're trying to explain to her, used your weak hand, everything else. Nonetheless, though, it's a very cool, very tense scene and first half of the episode, really, because you wind up seeing all the Phantom Troop members around, minus, of course, Uvo, who's been killed, and Krollo, who's gone now. So 11 of them over here, and we wind up having. When after that comes out about the arm wrestling, Nobunaga goes and is going to have Gon arm wrestle him. So he winds up, they cut to him slamming down Gon's hand, and then he's like, one more time, and he goes to do it again, right? And he talks a little bit, asks him some questions about the chain user, which nobody knows about. They don't know that Kurapika is the chain user yet. And he slams his hand down again. Blood starts coming out of it. At one point, Killua gets pissed off, and he's like, we told you we didn't know anything. And Nobunaga's like, you speak out of turn again, and I'll kill you. And Killua can just feel his, killing intent, his aura coming off of him, And clearly they're outmatched and they're outnumbered. So there's not a lot that they can do right here. So Gon just has to keep muscling up and getting beat back down, by Nobunaga. And Nobunaga has this I thought it was very cool. It was a very touching, heartfelt moment where a speech almost, where he talks about how him and Uvo were friends. He knew him even before they were in the Phantom Troop. And that, he was very headstrong and would kind of rush headlong into things. But he vows to go, and he actually starts tearing up. He vows to go and find the chain user that killed him, right? And Gon goes in at that point because they're locked up in another arm wrestling match. It reminds me of the 80s movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Very cool movie. But anyway, Gon goes, and it all explains about how basically, Sylvester Stallone has this moment in there where he talks about how, when he gets in there, he gets in the mode, he turns his hat around backwards, and it's like flipping on a switch, right? And what it does is he in this particular movie, he's fighting for his son and the betterment of him and for the betterment of his life. And he's able to kind of turn it up to 11, so to speak. And Gon, it was a very similar thing because he's getting beat over and over again by Nobunaga, right? Who's not even the strongest Phantom Troop member as far as arm wrestling goes. And then when he goes and he sees all this emotion come out of him over his fallen friend, Gon goes and he's like, oh yeah? And he gets pissed off as he's going and coming and slamming Nobunaga's arm down. And he's like, you show all this emotion for somebody that you lost, a friend of yours, but no emotion for all the people that you've killed, all the lives you've taken, And anyway, as he winds up doing that, and he slams his hand down, then Fei Tan's ass comes up behind him, and it goes and puts him in kind of like a half Nelson, where looks like he's gonna maybe break his arm or start to torture him. And Killua goes to make a step towards him. Hisoka's got to keep up appearances, so he comes and just puts a card right up to his throat, draws a little blood and says, don't move an inch. And he's got to keep up appearances, obviously. And what winds up happening is Nobunaga says to let him go. Fei Tan doesn't want to. He's going to start torturing him, everything else. The bottom line is that they wind up when the Phantom Troop members, because they're all such beasts and powerhouse, when they have a disagreement over something major, they flip a coin. Once they flip a coin, and that's how it's settled, right? So Nobunaga they flip the coin, Nobunaga winds up winning, and Fei Tan has to let him go. And the chick with she's got the weird sort of nose, Paconata, the one with the extremely lovely cleavage and just looks like super hot everything, but like this weird sort of hooked witch's nose that she has. Seriously, when you see the face, I wouldn't fuck her with a stolen dick. But the body, if you just saw from the body down, you're like, damn, right? Anyway, whatever her Nen ability is, she says, because then they asked, do they know anything about it? And Killua's starting to piece together during this whole thing that it's Kurapika, that it's the chain user. But she winds up saying that no, that she checked their memories and they have no memory of the chain user. So what winds up happening is we find out a little bit about her abilities. Obviously, when she comes in contact with or touches somebody, she can actually scan their memories, right? So now Killua's sweating bullets thinking, well, if she decides to go and check again, I now have an idea who the chain user may be, and she'll scan my memories and know about Kurapika and obviously, his hatred for the Phantom Troupe and everything else, right? So it's a very tense episode, man, very tense. They wind up saying, hey, listen, we can just let them go, Nobunaga's like, fuck that, we're not going to let them go. I want you to join the Phantom Troupe. It's like, you gotta be kidding, bud. I ain't joining you. I die before I join you. So Nobunaga winds up saying, listen, you know what, we're going to keep them here as prisoners until the boss gets back, till Chrollo gets back, and then we'll ask him, right? So anyway, everybody else goes to pair off, and Machi doesn't have a partner now, of course, because Nobunaga is going to stay back, and they all decide that they're going to go and try to find some of the Nostrad family bodyguards and see if they can get some information out of them about, of course, about the chain user, Kurapika. So Machi doesn't have a partner, and she winds up having to reluctantly team up with Hisoka, because he's kind of the odd man out as far as the troop members. There's 11 of them there. Uvo, of course, is dead. Chrollo is gone, and Nobunaga is going to stay back, so there's 10. You get 5 pairs. They're going to pair up and then, obviously help each other out. So Machi, I just love the look on her face like, oh God, I got to team up with this weird, perverted clown. Anyway, the next portion of the episode, though, I thought was pretty cool. It takes place, Nobunaga's sitting there, he's got them in this room, right, in this abandoned building they're in, and there's one door, and he's got some candles, and he's just sitting there. And Gon and Killua are kind of talking amongst themselves, Gon's sort of nursing his hand a little bit. Killua is going and having these flashbacks, and this is where some of his hang-ups come in that he has, his mental issues. He was, he's been trained as an assassin since he was a baby, basically. And his brother, Illumi, has beat it into his head over and over again, never to fight somebody that you cannot beat, right? That you cannot win. Never to worry about trying to go and overcome them with this net. If you're just not straight up better than them or stronger than them, don't fight them, So anyway, Killua goes, and he flips out and has just gets up and all his aura comes out of him. And he actually takes some steps toward, he's sweating bullets, but he takes some steps towards Nobunaga. And now we haven't really seen him too much, seen much of him in battle yet, but Nobunaga's like, you come within range and I will cut you down, And Killua makes several steps towards him, He winds up backing off, though, after a little while and decides to kind of live and fight another day. He then goes and suggests to Gon, and he says, you know what, I'll sacrifice myself, basically. I'll be the decoy so you can get away. And Gon goes and just straight up smacks him in the head. He's like, what the hell is your problem, man? You don't want to be doing something so reckless and stupid. And this whole time, Gon is asking about if Killua can remember some of the different techniques that Zapil taught them. And this is where that Zapil episode came in handy about the different techniques that forgers and counterfeiters wind up using, right, to go and throw people off for these different items. And the reason it applies to in real life is what he's trying to think of, and he winds up eventually thinking of, is the technique he taught him called sidestepping, where they actually take one of those statues and create a new opening in the side, take out the valuables, put some fake crap in there, and then seal it back up so nobody's looking for that, right? So the whole sidestepping technique comes into play because then they go, and when they both get on the same page, they both charge up like they're going to come towards Nobunaga, and he's just like, oh, really? You're going to bring it? I'm going to, he's like, I'm going to kill you. Pulls out his sword and gets ready. As they go to come towards him, they're just like, whoosh, they go like this and cross over and just smash holes in the wall on the side. They just make an entrance in the sides of the room, right? And just take off in different directions. Splitting up, he can only chase one of them, right? Number one. And number two, he didn't expect that. He thought they were coming at him, right? So he's chasing them around and everything else, and we find out a little bit about his actual power. And his power, I believe they call it N that he has. And what he can do is, instead of just having an aura that can be a few millimeters above your skin surrounding you, he can actually increase his field of aura, almost like a force field. And no matter what type of Zetsu or anything else you use, he can sense anybody that comes within that range that he has, right? And he can cut them down because he's obviously this master swordsman, So he winds up getting decoyed out, I guess you would say, shucked and jived and whatever else you got to go through. Gon winds up going and busting holes through several other walls, and he winds up going and getting into this room, and then realizes that there was just kind of a decoy so Gon could go and leave. Gon yells out to Killua, and he's like, "Hey, are you there?" And Killua's like, "Yeah, he's in another part of the building. They're trying to take off." And Gon's like, "Hey, let's fight this guy." As the dude goes in, as Nobunaga jumps out in the hallway, Gon disappears. Obviously used the Zetsu or whatever, disappeared. And the episode ends with them running off, jumping over the fence, and Killua basically being like, "Dude, we cannot beat those guys. Don't be fucking stupid and reckless." And then Gon's like, "Oh, you're finally talking like the old Killua again, I'm the one that's supposed to make the stupid mistakes and things like that and say the crazy things. You're supposed to be the one that's like grounded in reality." What winds up happening with this episode is that they come to the realization of, and Killua shares with Gon that he figured out that Kurapika is obviously the chain user, and since they all learn Nen right around the same time, they know that they have to find him and meet up with him. Number one, strength in numbers. Number two, Kurapika can hopefully go and shed some light on and help them improve and strengthen their Nen and to be stronger, right? Because they basically they're like, we want to beat the Phantom Troop members, but we got to get stronger to do so. So I very much like how this is played out, and it's done so well in this series that, it's not so much just a clear cut. There's so many different variables to things, and there's so much to kind of learn with this. And a lot of it isn't just like, okay, I'm just going to go and just kind of hulk up with my magical power and beat these guys. This is very much they got lucky that they narrowly escaped, So that's how the episode ends off, though. And it was a great one. It's the 50th episode, and I'm just chugging right along here, loving the shit out of this series. Very, very good stuff. I'll be caught up before you know it. A couple months now. And I'm very, very excited, obviously, to dive into the next one. So my episode question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is what were your thoughts on Nobunaga and how they explained, obviously, about his powers and obviously his use of Nen and him knowing how to being able to train and be able to put that kind of aura, almost like a force field around him that can sense anything that comes within it and then be able to strike them down. I thought it was very cool, and I thought that many of the uses and principles and just variations on Nen and everything were very cool, very well explained. This one is no different, but what are your thoughts on Nobunaga and the powers that we've obviously found out about him thus far? Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nash.
Remember to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my other channel.